Would you like to know an easy, simplified version to getting your estate plan done? All the documents? Listen to this episode. We're going to give you all the details.
To learn more about how to secure your retirement and all the different elements you need to know, please subscribe to our channel and hit the bell so you'll be notified when we release episodes every Monday. We have helped hundreds of our clients gain clarity and get on the path to a great retirement. Now it's your turn. Let's dive in.
Welcome to Secure Your Retirement Podcast. We are certainly happy to have you here with us today. Today, we're going to be talking about a topic that we have discussions with all the time with our prospective clients and our clients, and that's around estate planning and the easy way to do that, or some ways to do that. And today we have a special guest on with us, Ann Rhodes with Wealth.com. We'll explain a little bit more about that. But first of all, Ann, thank you so much for coming on and having a good conversation with us.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me. I'm just excited to be talking about estate planning with you today.
Yeah, excellent. So could you just, for our listeners, kind of give us a little bit of who you are, your background, what's your connection to estate planning, and give us a little bit of understanding on that?
Sure, absolutely. So before I joined Wealth.com, where I am Chief Legal Officer, I was an estate planner. I worked in private practice in New York City at McDermott, Will and Emery. It is the only Band 1 ranked law firm in this space by Chambers. And so it's, I worked on highly complex wealth transfer strategies, a lot of cross-border planning as well. And then in 2019, my family situation changed. My husband got a job out here in San Francisco, where I'm dialing in from today. And I joined Perkins Coie, which is a Seattle-based law firm. They have, big West Coast-based clientele. And so, worked on a lot of families that were building first-generation wealth and might face a big liquidity event at some point.
Very good. Thanks for giving us some of that background, Ann. So today we've got, we try to keep our episodes somewhere in the realm of 15 to 20 minutes, nice and easy to listen to on your commute to work or something like that. So, but we've got some great topics we want to go through. And let's just dive into the first one. So my question to you is, we talk about all these documents that you have to have, and doesn't matter asset size, doesn't matter situation. Most people need these core documents. And a lot of times we talk about a will and then some documents that go along with those. Can you speak to what those are and the importance behind each one of those?
Yeah, absolutely. When I think about estate planning, I think about it in terms of kind of two large buckets, and that's where the documents kind of come in. The first one is, passing away, death. People need a plan for who is going to be stepping into your shoes and helping you distribute your assets. And then the other question is to whom, right? What are these assets and where are they going? And then the second category, second bucket, is incapacity. So these days, especially with medical technology being the way that it is, it can be a little bit of a question as to like, when are you incapacitated, but still needing somebody to help you take care of yourself, but also your loved ones. And so the documents are in a standard estate package, which every single American should have. As you hinted, there should be a will. And the will actually is even relevant if you have a living trust or a revocable trust. These two documents, in my mind, I kind of lump them together. Those are your kind of post-death planning, and they're the main vehicle in your estate plan. So do you have a will or do you have a living trust? But even if you have that living trust, you still need a pour-over will, which becomes a shorter document that takes all of your assets that are still in your name and that you didn't put into your trust, and then pours them into, it's like coffee, pours them into your trust. And that's where your trust will take over. And then you have another whole set of documents that, have to do with incapacity. So think financial power of attorney. And so that's really for somebody to have signature authority, like everywhere where you would normally sign a piece of paper for financial purposes, financial matters. That's where that document comes in. And then the other document in there is an advanced healthcare directive. that those healthcare documents, which are about, who takes care of you and what happens to you, after you pass away, like organ donation, those have different names in all of the different states. And so I call it an advanced healthcare directive because, I'm out here in California, but if you were, somewhere else, it might be called a healthcare proxy or power of attorney over healthcare matters. Those are all kind of the same document.
Excellent. Now, I know in some of the packages that we have put together, there was also HIPAA forms. Could you explain why a person would need a HIPAA form, especially if it's a husband and wife or, a married couple or with children? Could you just kind of explain the purposes of that?
Sure, absolutely. I mean, under each of these kind of documents that I just described, they're actually what I refer to as ancillary documents. They're just documents that help that document, function even better. And so I'll give you some sense of that, but the HIPAA is a great example for the Advanced Healthcare Directive or the healthcare proxy, because, there are federal and actually state level laws about medical privacy, right? And so that's what HIPAA is. And what it allows the hospital to do if you sign it is to give your agent the power to access those records, right? Because otherwise there's actually, there are laws to protect against that. And if your healthcare provider, your doctor, is not able to even have that conversation with the agent, then the agent is not making a good decision on your behalf, right? So that HIPAA release form is really important to accompany the Advanced Healthcare Directive. There are a few other forms like that. And so actually for your listeners, you might be interested in something called a certification of trust. So if you don't mind, I'll just quickly go over that. Don't know if you've seen that before, or if, a bank has asked your client to fill out a certification or certificate of trust. What that is it accompanies a living trust or irrevocable trust. And when you want to put an asset, like your bank account is in your name today, Raiden, and now you want to put it in your trust because you have a trust, you might go to your bank and your bank is like, well, how do I know that your trust exists? That certification of trust is like a cover sheet for your trust, so you don't have to reveal all 30 pages of that document with all the private information about your family, but instead it's just a cover sheet that says, yep, it's just these 2 pages where I tell you my trust exists, I'm the trustee, this is totally legit. And so that's what a certification of trust is, and it should come with your trust as well.
Yeah, that's a good point. It streamlines the process too for account openings and changes, that you don't have to give them the big 30-page document or reveal some of the private information that you may have in there. So that's good. While we're on the topic of trust, one of the main questions that we get is, I read this and this online, or I Googled this and this about trust. And how do you help someone understand and think through, am I good enough with just the will and the beneficiary designations on my accounts, or do I need to start thinking about a trust, and what can a trust do for me?
Right. So this is one of my favorite topics. I feel like there is so much misinformation about trust out there and what kind of trust we're talking about, because as you probably heard, even from what I just said, they're like little words you add in front of trust, and it could mean something completely different. So here we're really talking about the living trust or the revocable trust. That is the most common form of trust because it's a substitute for a will. There are all sorts of other trusts out there. In fact, a real alphabet soup: GRATs, CRUTs, ILITs, whatever. And that is about, wealth transfer planning. Maybe there are some estate tax issues that come into play. We're not talking about those trusts. We're talking about something that, is really just, do you want a will or do you want a trust? And why would you want, a trust versus a will? So let's dig a little bit deeply into that. So the first things to know is wills mean that your estate, so all the assets that you own at your death, will go through a process called probate. This is, pretty unique to the United States and a couple of these like English countries out there, English speaking countries. But that is a court process where a judge is overseeing and signing off on decisions that your executor or your personal representative will make. That can take a while, and especially in different states. Out here in California or in Florida, the court systems are kind of, they're handling a lot of cases. So you have to queue up behind a lot of other people. And so in these types of states, your state alone means that you should have a trust, right? So think California, think Florida. in those states, if you live there or your client lives there, just kind of start steering them towards a trust if you can. Then the thing to understand about probate is that there's a court docket, and courts are public forums, right? So if you think about like Sam Bankman-Fried, whose, life story has just been published on the internet, it's because he went through this, criminal court system. Courts make things public. And so people who don't want their wills and where their stuff goes and who, they've disinherited through their documents to be known to the public should think long and hard about a trust. So trust is about privacy as well as reducing the cost and the time of probate. And then there are various other little reasons to have trusts. So for example, if you have a client who owns real estate in a state other than where they live, right? So think, okay, they're going to have to open probate in, let's say they live in Florida, but they also own a vacation home somewhere else, let's say Louisiana, then all of a sudden they're going to have to open multiple probates. Well, in that case, you should have a trust and just put that real property into your trust and hopefully avoid a lot of different little probates all over the country. So those are reasons why your client, or you might want to consider having a trust versus a will.
Yeah. Okay. So one of the things that we wanted to talk about too, because, this kind of, what if I go back, I've been doing this for 22 years, and what we would have occur is that we would have a client come in and we would say, hey, you need to get these documents, right? And they would say, well, then do you have any recommendations? And we would hand them, a couple of different business cards from a couple of different attorneys. And we would say, get in touch with one of these attorneys, set up an appointment, go see them. And from what I found, the way that typically works is you go in, either maybe now on Zoom or in a meeting, you have a conversation. They're then going to prep documents. Then you're going to go back and review the documents and then tweak it. And it becomes this, process that we find can take a month or two at least just to get all that done. And obviously there can be some expense there. So what we would have is a lot of folks would come back to us and we would be doing their annual review again. And we'll say, hey, did you get your estate plan set up? And they go, no, I didn't get a chance to do that. And so we were looking for an alternative. And so in the last few years, what we've been trying to do is make that streamline. And so what we decided to do is we actually ended up partnering with Wealth.com. Now, the difference here is that Wealth.com obviously is an online platform versus going and seeing an attorney. So I would like for you to speak a little bit from your side as to maybe the things that are maybe, is it not as good as going and seeing an attorney one-on-one, or like other things that I need to be aware of? Like, so that's sometimes I think questions people have, like it might feel to some degree a little bit more legitimate me sitting in front of an attorney versus doing this online.
For sure. For sure. So, well, here's what I can say to you. The first thing to know about Wealth.com, and thank you for giving me a platform to talk about my baby for these past few years, is that it's a digital first platform. And so the idea here is that a financial advisor or maybe an employer, somebody has a connection to Wealth and gives access to the client who needs, the estate plan done. So we are B2B2C. And so there's always kind of a little bit of a mediation there or a relationship with Wealth before your client can even, come onto the platform. So then it's about, that client, you traditionally refer them to estate planners, right? And as you described, that can be a very friction-filled experience. I'm shocked, by the way, that it takes just 1 or 2 months, because in my experience, when I was in private practice and we charged $9,000 as the starting quote for a couple in California, we would send that PDF questionnaire to the client, be like, oh, nice to meet you. Like, I need to know a little bit more about you. Here's this 10-page PDF. Like, good luck. We wanted them to have homework to do to kind of, line them up and see who was really motivated to come back. So estate planners, there are fewer really good estate planners out there. And so the really good ones are really overworked and have these really heavy workloads. And so, yes, your client may be waiting for months before they can get in front of that estate planner again. So we at Wealth.com really wanted to reduce the friction. Most people in the United States, to be honest, may be able to use these really powerful tools that we've put in their hands, and really excellent quality forms, and be able to get through the whole process by themselves, right? Instead of having to fill out a PDF where that information you put in about your brother, who you trust to be your executor, is just going to be copied and pasted into somebody's Word doc, right? And so, like, why don't you do that, right? You have the power. You know your contact information for your brother, right? So, so it's reducing that friction, and also reducing the need to always go back to an estate planner. And for us at Wealth, I can tell you our forms at this point have been reviewed by 70 plus attorneys throughout the United States. It's not just the attorneys who work with us, are in our network. And by the way, I have to give a shout out to Brady Boyett in North Carolina. They are our preferred partner, and they have been fantastic to us. But any event, we partner with local counsel who review our forms, give us feedback, tell us about changes in law in their states. And we also have, our customers who have in-house trust and estates attorneys who've had to, diligence as part of their diligence process, review our forms. And I can tell you these forms are better than 99% of what's out there. I'm really, really proud of the forms we've put together. But it's also, yes, there are swim lanes. And I want to be very honest about that, because any digital estate planning tool that tells you that they don't have, that they can serve every American is going to be wrong. And there is a place absolutely for an estate planner in this process if you come upon one of these family situations. So I'll give you an example for us. Currently at Wealth, we do not serve families that have special needs children very well. And I'm just going to be very honest with you. Every state has slightly different laws. We are currently undergoing a survey to see, what each state does, but there are government benefits to be aware of for each particular state, plus the federal level ones. And so right now, if you go through our platform, we actually ask you proactively, do you have a special needs circumstance? And if you click that, we will tell you, please go and find an estate planner, right? But if your family, like by and large, you can do some really complex planning on the Wealth platform. And actually, we don't consider ourselves to have a net worth ceiling, meaning that if you have a federally taxable estate of 26 million or above, you can actually still use wealth.com to set up all of the trust structures that you'll need to give your family an opportunity to do tax planning at your death. So it's, knowing the limits of the platform is very important when you do something like that. But to be honest, our users, it takes them 36 minutes to do a trust on our platform. So think about, how much power you've put into your client's hands.
Yeah. And I think so one of the things that we have seen along with that story of us telling clients to go see this attorney, we've got a great relationship with this attorney and this attorney, we've vetted them, go see them. One of the barriers there is just procrastination in general, right? And yeah, I'll take your card, I'll give them a call, but they never give them a call. They never set that appointment, and we see them a year later and they never got to it, right? So wealth.com and other platforms like that kind of take away that barrier to a degree of, hey, you can just sit down and knock it out in 36 minutes, like you said. But what about the person that, it's not a complex case, but maybe they need a little bit of advice. Maybe they need a little bit of hand holding throughout the process, or I've got this tiny question or this. How does Wealth handle that?
Yeah, so I will say, I'm glad you asked this question, because it is important to have, for us, a very strong and vetted attorney network, because folks who are going through the digital estate planning process may have questions, right? One-off questions that are very particular to them. And we don't give legal advice, and neither should, your financial advisors. And so the people who can still, apply the law to a specific person's situation, for example, like, I'm really wondering, like, between my family members, who I should pick as an executor, really got to work that out, because I have 4 children and I don't want to, insult any of them, but I really just want one, etc. That kind of question is a legal question and should be addressed by a lawyer. And so in that case, we make available our attorney network, the folks who have helped us strengthen our own platform, we make them available to you. The other reason why we think it's important to make available attorneys is because people don't always have questions just about estate planning. Sometimes it's because they're a beneficiary of their parents' estate. When we think about the great wealth transfer that's happening right now, your clients may also be beneficiaries or heirs from somebody else's estate. And so they may have questions about that. And so that's part of the reason why we make our attorney network available. It's because we trust these people and we think that, we've reduced the barrier for you guys to go and source attorneys in like 50 states plus DC.
Excellent. Yeah. And we have, just wanted to explain one more thing then for everybody who's listening through this, and because we want to be clear, this wealth.com is not a end user platform. It's really a platform with a partner, and then we are able to then have our clients go through that connection. So just so you understand that if you're trying to type in wealth.com as you listen to this, it's not really a way you're going to be able to go get an estate plan. So you could come through somebody who has a relationship with wealth.com. I will tell you that I have found, and we've gotten the feedback, that it is super easy. It's an easy platform to walk through. One last question, and this is just one that is like, I want to hear your response to. How would you describe the difference of wealth.com to, say, some of the other platforms that are out there that are kind of legal, but it's across the board? So you could kind of go there and you could say, well, I want to set up an LLC, I want to do an estate plan, I want to do this or that. How would you describe the difference in a vast platform versus one that's very, very designed for estate planning?
Yeah, so I can tell you that estate planning is where we focus our efforts. And there's a reason for that, which is, remember, again, I said there's no net worth ceiling to our platform, where our legal team has the tax expertise to be able to do some very complex kind of work. So for example, if you came to wealth.com and you wanted to set up what's called dynasty trusts, right? So like trusts for your descendants that last as long as the state law allows it to last. You can do that at wealth.com. We set up these types of trusts in your will or in your subtrusts. So that's really important to know, right? And so will we someday maybe do LLCs? Sure, maybe, right? But that's not really where we're focused, because we really want to give financial advisors and their clients a tool that they can trust to go deeply, right, into this estate planning world. And that to us is very important. A lot of our competitors also, to be honest, have that D2C, right? They are direct to consumer. And there's something about partnering through a financial advisor that we find really rewarding, which is, Merce, to your point, right? Like you have clients who kind of go off, you give them that business card and they don't get it done. But you guys as financial advisors, through the wealth.com platform, have your own login to administer access to your clients, but also to kind of keep tabs on them. And we think that's really important, right? You guys have the ability to like finger wag digitally now and say, hey, get it done. So this is not a big rush when you like go on your next big vacation with your family. And so that's part of the reason we so treasure the relationships through another business, another firm. And we're just really happy to have our financial advisor partners who make this a stronger experience for the end user.
So one last question, I think then we'll wrap it up. So say the person goes through the whole platform or the whole process of drawing up their trust, their will, all those auxiliary documents as well. What happens at the end to where it becomes legal? What all needs to be done?
Yes. So our platform right now delivers to you within that 36 minutes on average, legal drafts. So print them right at home if your client feels comfortable doing that, or, as a financial advisor, you can help them print. And then they need to be signed in front of witnesses, if it's a will specifically, and notarized. So different states have different state requirements. We make the signing instructions really clear to you, kind of what you'll need for that particular state. So have that signing ceremony, and then you have legal documents in your hands. So to be honest, it can be done over the course of just one day. draft your documents, go to UPS to get the documents notarized, and UPS will have, a couple of people on site who can be your witnesses, and boom, you're done.
Yeah, excellent. Well, hey, thank you so much, Anne, for coming on. You have really given us a really clear, easy, simple path here for folks to understand what they can do. And we appreciate you taking time out of your day to come on and chat with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
We hope this video has given you some confidence and clarity as you plan for a worry-free life in retirement. But what else do you need? We have created a complimentary video course called 3 Keys to Secure Your Retirement. This video walks you through step-by-step what you need to do to get ready for retirement. You can also check out our podcast called Secure Your Retirement. You can subscribe below.
For more retirement tips, check out these videos. Also, if you find them valuable, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and give us a like.